morning, everyone. It's day two of the week of Rick Warren's sermon, and that's what we started yesterday. I hope you were able to see yesterday's show. If not, of course, encourage you to go to YouTube and take a look at Inspiration for Today and see that show. It's a good one. But today we're going to continue, and it will make sense even if you didn't see that. We're watching a sermon just like we do on Sunday mornings, and it's Rick Warren. I wanted you to get to know Rick, and this is the best way. Just listen to him. He is a pastor to pastors. He's known all over the world, and in fact, he gives away his sermon so people can preach it anywhere in the world. I want you to get the most out of it. Listen to Rick, and we'll see you tomorrow.
He makes the people they hate the most the hero of the story. Now, that's the first attitude I have. I'm just going to keep my distance. When I see somebody in pain, I'll just walk over to the other side of the road and keep walking because I'm busy with what I'm doing. I'm preoccupied with me. Now, here's the second attitude. Second attitude represents the second guy, and he's a traveler, and it is this: I can be curious but uncaring. I can be curious, but uncaring. This guy's a little bit more interested, but he's not interested enough to do anything. This is the attitude not of avoidance. This is the attitude of apathy. I see the need of other people. I'm just too self-centered to help. In other words, the second guy, it says he goes down and he actually goes over and looks at the guy. And goes, wow, very interesting. And then he goes on with his way. So here's what the Bible says about this guy in verse 32. In the same way, a Levite, now a Levite is not a jeans salesman. A Levite is a religious assistant in the temple. So both of these first two guys who do the wrong response, a priest and a Levite, they're both religious people. Being religious does not make you kind. Being like Jesus makes you kind. I've met a lot of religious people who are very unkind. Being religious does not make you kind. You can go to church every week of your life and still be unkind to your wife or your kids or your husband or your friends or the neighbors or people you don't like. Being religious doesn't make you kind. Being like Christ makes you kind. In the same way, a Levite also came there. He went over and looked at the man, but then he walked on by on the other side. So he crosses over, looks at the guy in pain, a naked guy bleeding to death, walks back over and keeps on going. He's saying, I see the need, I'm just too self-centered to help. I'm aware and I stare, but I don't care. That's this guy. I'm aware and I stare, but I don't care. Now, even worse, he sees this beaten up victim. He stares at him, but he doesn't help him. He said, well, I'd never do that. I'd never stare at somebody in pain and not stop to help. You ever seen a freeway accident? All the traffic stops, including you, because everybody's craning their neck to stare, and nobody stops. You have done this. You have done this. Because there are accidents on the freeway, and you didn't stop to help. You stared, you craned, you slowed down. You wanted to see what was going on, but you didn't stop. You didn't stop at all. Everybody stares, nobody stops. That's a lack of kindness. You see, curiosity stares, kindness stops. I've told you many times, a lot of people like to study the steps of Jesus in Galilee, and the steps of Jesus at the Jordan River. And they like to follow the steps, and I've told you before, I like to study the stops of Jesus. What made Jesus stop? What did he allow to interrupt his life? Because almost every single miracle in the Gospels was an interruption. It was because Jesus stopped. He didn't just see, he didn't just stare, he stopped. And that is part of kindness. Be willing to stop and help. Now, curiosity, as I said, stares, kindness stops. We like to read about people's pain. That's why there are all these gossip magazines. about everybody else's divorce. Why should you care about that? Why should you care about anybody else's pain that you can't do anything about? That's why they're called gossip magazines, because you're neither part of the problem nor part of the solution. You're just curious. You're this second guy, curious but uncaring. We want to read about other people's pain in People magazine or anything else. We want to talk about other people's pain. We want to discuss people's pain. We just don't want to help their pain. We're fascinated. We're the second guy. We're curious but uncaring. I don't know if you've noticed that it's easier to gossip about people's problems than it is to help them. But it's something it's easy for all of us to do. Let me show you a verse out of the book of Exodus, up here on the screen. Exodus 23, verse 5. If you see the donkey of someone who hates you, okay, so this is not your friend. If you see the donkey of someone who hates you has fallen under a heavy load, do not walk by. Instead, stop, there's the word, stop, and offer to help. Now, question. If God cares that much about being kind to animals, do you think he cares about being kind to people? Yeah. If he cares that much, he says, if a donkey has fallen under a heavy load, you stop and help the donkey. You're to be kind and careful and caring about animals, well then certainly you're to be kind and caring about God's people that he has created. Now there's a third attitude, okay? I can keep my distance, avoidance. I can be curious but uncaring, apathetic. Or I can, like the third traveler, the Samaritan, show kindness. I can show kindness, and this is the third response. Verse 33, but a Samaritan who was traveling that way, he's the third guy, came upon the man who'd been beaten and stripped. And when he saw him, his heart was filled with pity. Now, as I said, Jesus loved to turn the tables on people. He does the exact opposite of who you think is going to be the hero here. It's not a religious person. Jesus was never politically correct. He didn't care about being politically correct. He just cared about being correct. And he makes a despised person, a person that people are prejudiced against, who they are biased against. He makes that guy the hero of the story. And he says, this guy's heart was filled with pity. He's the guy who actually is going to do something. Now notice the next verse on your outline, Matthew 7, verse 12. Always treat others as you would like them to treat you. This is, of course, known as the golden rule. Always treat others as you would like them to treat you. Would that change the world if everybody practiced it? Oh, yeah. Would the world be a kinder, gentler place if everybody practiced that? Yeah. If you treated everybody else the way you would like to be treated. How do you want to be treated? You want to be treated with kindness. And so God says, I want you to treat everybody with kindness because that's the way you want to be treated. Always treat others the way you want to be treated. Why should I be kind? Well, let me give you two reasons. I could give you many, but let me just give you two. Number one, the Bible says that an unkind life is an unproductive life. It's barren. You will not be productive in your life if you are mean. An unkind life is an unproductive life. Look at this verse, Galatians 6:7. I love the Message paraphrase here. The person who plants selfishness, ignoring the needs of others, harvests the crop of weeds. And all he'll have to show for his life is weeds. So I'm not going to be productive unless I learn how to be kind in life. But there's another reason, and it's this. God blesses you when you're kind to other people. Look at this next verse, Proverbs 11:17. Your own soul is nourished when you're kind. Your own soul is nourished when you're kind. So I want to be productive, and I want my soul to be nourished. I want God's blessing on my life. Then what does God want me to do? He wants me to learn to be like him because the Bible says God is kind. God is gracious. Love in action. That's what kindness is.